Go ahead, Susan. I'm doing great, man. How you doing today? Look like we got a blast from the past here. Can you introduce our guest?
Yes, sir. We got a retired commander, Mark Edwards, with us. As you guys know, he was a guest on here before. We had an excellent podcast that day, and we're looking forward to having another one. Before I let Mark say something really quick, I just want to let all these couch patriots they're always in our comment section that you're looking at three black men that served this country honorably. So, all y'all wannabe warriors, three of us actually volunteered and joined the United States military. Commander, you want to go ahead and say something real quick?
Rellis, it's a pleasure to be online with you again and just talk about all the topics that's relevant to today and what's going on. And so I'm just looking forward to just diving in and getting busy.
Thank you, sir. We're excited about it also. So we got a good topic for you this week. How many of you knew that this month was Black Business Month? Raise your hand. Nobody, basically. The truth about Trump's economy and black entrepreneurship. So we thought that it would be a good idea to talk about this as it relates to Trump's economy and black entrepreneurs and everything. So we wanted to highlight that. We're also going to talk about some relevant things, voting this past week's, yesterday's primary elections. And since we got three experts, two Navy experts, we're going to talk a little bit about the quagmire that the Navy and they find themselves in, and Donald Trump's response to a media person that asked him, did he think that the deployment was too long? So we're going to get into some good stuff. Let's get started, Sulayman, and get these people started and everything. So welcome back to Gents Making Sense. We're where we break down the world with clarity, culture, and a whole lot of truth. Today, we're stepping into a conversation that sits right and the intersection of power, policy, and black excellence. It's Black Business Month, a time to celebrate the brilliance, resilience, and innovation of black entrepreneurs nationwide. But celebration without context is just noise. So today we're asking a real question. How does Trump's economy shape the landscape black businesses are trying to grow? Not the headlines, not the talking point, the lived reality.
This is a good topic, man. Good segment here. And we're keeping this nationwide, coast to coast, from big cities to small towns, because black entrepreneurship isn't regional. It's a national movement with national challenges. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. Let's get into it. Our first segment today is going to be the myth of a universal economy. Every election cycle, every press conference, every economic update comes with the same phrase. The economy is strong, but strong for who is the question we asking today. Because when you look at the data, the disparities are clear. Black-owned businesses are more likely to be undercapitalized, newer, smaller, operating with thinner margins, serving communities hit hardest by inflation. So when national leaders talk about economic strength, black entrepreneurs often feel something different. Pressure, not prosperity.
That's the tension we're exploring today. Black Businesses Month forces us to ask, does the national economic narrative match the black entrepreneurial reality? What do you think, Mark?
I believe it doesn't because, again, as we were speaking earlier before we got online, was that I didn't even know anything about the Black Business Month at all, just till now. And so we got to do a better job of promoting black businesses. And that means on the news, the newspaper, online, getting that word out. So it has to be relevant in today's society that we exist.
Yeah. And it's just like with the regular economy. I know we're talking about businesses now, but just like with the regular American person that's out there working 9 to 5, when America, as they say, as America has a cold, black people have pneumonia because we have it a whole lot worse than everybody else and everything. Because of those things I listed, before everything. We don't have accessibility, we don't have capital, and we don't always get the best rates when we do get capital and everything. So go ahead, Suleiman.
No, I was
Yeah.
gonna say I think that a lot of it is underlined. Like, do black businesses, black entrepreneurs get the same access to capital, the same access to loans, the same access to infrastructure that everybody else gets? And I'm not sure that I can say that's the case. And that's part of the problem. You can't tell me that black people in this country don't have the intelligence, the understanding of entrepreneurship, ideas to open up businesses as anyone else. But yet we seem to fall behind when it comes to that. And I think it has a lot of underlying issues with access to what's needed in order to build businesses. So I think we need to get better at that, finding the right places to go to and get some of that, getting that capital and getting people willing to support our businesses and in certain neighborhoods.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna give you a quick snapshot of black owned businesses. 3.5 million black owned businesses operate across the United States. They generate over 200 billion in annual revenue. 98% are micro business or sole proprietorship with fewer than 10 employees. Black women are fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the country. Key insight in all of this is growth is strong, but most black businesses remain small due to systematic constraints, which you just got through talking about. Also, access to capital, which you just made a good point about. Capital access remains the largest barrier to black business growth. Black entrepreneurs are twice as likely to be denied loans. Approved loans often come with a higher interest rate and lower amounts. Only 1% of venture capital funding goes to black founders. Once again, 1%. 1%. Black households hold 1/8 of wealth of white households, limiting startup capital. The key insight here is capital gap is measurable and persistent, shaping every stage of business development. So there you go. Those are the facts.
Those are the facts, and I think that I think we can do better. And no disrespect to the sole entrepreneurs. I mean, I get that, but that is not going to build our community. We need restaurants. I mean, for the most part, black people's food is used everywhere. But yet we don't own the type of residence the restaurants, where we can show off that stuff like barbecue and chicken and, side dishes that are traditional in our communities. So that's what we need to do is open up restaurants. We need to buy restaurants or, franchises. There are lots of franchises out there that we can purchase and, survive off the franchise. Like, for instance, McDonald's. You don't have to go in and develop anything in McDonald's. You just purchase the franchise. McDonald's is going to ensure that their product and what they sell is going to be done the way they want it. But you own it. You own the building. You get resources from the building. That's what we need to do. Akeem Olajuwon, you guys remember he used to play for the Houston Rockets. Akeem owns like 45 Denny's,
Mm-hmm.
across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So not many people know that, but Denny's is it's their brand. He purchased the units and he makes money off of it. That's what we need to get into instead of trying to open up, Mark's Barbecue or Sulayman's, Kale Green Shop. There are franchises out there that we can make money off of. I wouldn't recommend it because I'm not a big fan of them, but what's the restaurant that does what's the chicken restaurant? I can't think of it.
Look, Popeyes?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is another one that's got a great brand. You go in and you purchase that or you buy into that place. They're not going to let you build it anywhere. They're going to tell you where you're going to make money. So they're going to tell you where to build the place. They're going to help you build it. They're going to help you show off their brand. And then you benefit from the money it makes. So I think we need to get into to things like that. Anything else, Mark?
No, I think you hit it right on the nail. We definitely need to venture into some of those type of businesses. I also believe that some of the black successful businesses that are out there need to be reaching back out as well and bringing up some of these smaller businesses and like you mentioned about capital.
Mhm.
They should, have an opportunity to maybe, help with capital and building the success of black businesses. One of the things that I've learned is that when you look at why the Indian race, are successful, the Asians, it's because they stick together. They work together. They pull one another up. And if you look around, you see a lot of Indian businesses, you see a lot of Asian businesses. And the reason why is because they look out for one another. And I think in our community, we need to do a lot more of that as well, too. So in addition to what you were saying, Sulayman, which is a great idea, but we also the successful black businesses that are out there, and there's a few of them out there, they need to reach back and continue to help some of these smaller businesses or open up avenues where some of the smaller businesses can have, an opportunity to grow under them.
Yeah, that's well said. Uh, I have a little insight, and I hope I can get my good friend and college classmate on a show one day. His name is McDonald Davis, and McDonald Davis worked for Wendy's Corporation. He went not too long after we got out of graduated college. He worked for Wendy's. He went to work for Wendy's about, I would say, about 5 or 6 years after we got out of college and stuff, because he worked with other restaurants. Sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time. He was and doing the and being ready for success. One of those things where everybody say you got to be ready for success. This gentleman was ready for success. He went into Wendy's, became one of the top managers, and went into then became a training manager that well sought out, working for the corporation. And these franchisees, when they needed somebody to come in and train their managers, they would seek out Mac to get him. We call him Mac. Get him to come in there and train his managers and get his managers straight. So, long story short, he did such a good job that this group of businessmen that had already bought some Wendy's were looking to expand into the Atlanta area, and they wanted to buy 3 Wendy's stores. And but the problem was they didn't have an operating manager, so they stole Mac from the corporation and told him come on over with the franchise. And he basically asked him, "I need a reason why I'm going to leave this more secure job and go work for franchisees, because you never know if they'll go under or whatever. So these guys offered him a partnership, part owner of the whole franchise, 3 Wendy's, for a minimum amount of money. It usually take over $1 million to get into these kind of partnerships. It was less. It was a whole lot less than that. But they wanted his expertise, and they knew they would be successful with his expertise. So his expertise basically brought him into it. He worked for them for about 10 to 15 years. They sold the 3 stores about 10 years ago. He ain't worked a day since then, pretty
You
much.
ain't gonna have to. And see, that's
He
what I'm
won't have
saying.
to
As
work.
far as
He
like,
he was ready for success and everything. So
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, that's what we need to do, man. I mean, I'm a firm believer in we need to gatekeep. Everybody, every other race in this country gatekeeps. There's certain things that they only share with their community, and
yeah,
we're such a nice and open community
yeah,
that, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, there's nothing
yeah. I
wrong with
got you.
being that way. I think that's
Mhm.
just part of our nature. But sometimes it hurts us. It's because
Yeah,
we open up our community to other people who come in and use what we have created, what we've done to take advantage of us. I mean, Mark mentioned like the Indians and the Asians and stuff. Well, where are their businesses? Their businesses are in our community, so they have no issues with coming into our community and having us come and get Chinese food or Indian food or Pakistani food or something like that. And my point is, go put those in your neighborhood. And black people, we should be ones running the 7-Elevens in our community. We should be the ones running the supermarkets in our community. We should be the ones who own the restaurants in our community, so that dollar circulates in our community. Let the other people in their country, and no disrespect to them, but take your businesses to your community. And let's see how successful you are in putting that 7-Eleven or that CVS store in the Asian community or in an Indian community. So that's what I'm, kind of talking about, is us really gatekeeping and saying, we want our dollar to circulate in our community for a certain amount of time. And then we can go sit down at the table with other people.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick. One of the success stories that we talked about, Junior Bridgman, this guy named Junior Bridgman that played basketball for Milwaukee Bucks. He, after his years playing basketball, he invested in a multi-billion-dollar restaurant franchise empire, different restaurant franchise, and he became a multi-billionaire. He died just last year, but uh, he owned $1.4 billion in fast food with a fast food empire and everything, including Wendy's and Pizza Hut and places like that. This guy was a marginal basketball player, so that's what we're talking about. Federal contracting and government support, 2% here. So, black-owned businesses remain underrepresented in high-growth sections like tech, logistics, and manufacturing. Some little-known facts there.
Next segment, Roland Martin talked about this. He talked about the fact that he was talking more about McDonald's because McDonald's, their advertising dollars only about 2% or 2.5% that go to African Americans. And my point is, excuse me, black people. My point is, black folks eat a lot of McDonald's, a lot more than we probably should compared to other people.
Yeah, exactly.
But McDonald's is not willing to put their advertising dollars into the pockets of black entrepreneurs or into the pockets of the black community. In every black community, there's some McDonald's that's sitting on the outskirts of that community so that those kids can come over and eat that trash food. But yet they don't put any of that money, other than their, ridiculous commercials that they always put on TV into our community. And that's what Roland Martin was talking about, is that there are lots of black businesses out here that should be getting some of those advertising dollars from these fast food restaurants, from these stores, but we're not getting our percentage, our share of what should be going on. So, okay. All right. We beat that over the head enough.
Okay, no problem. So the next thing, one of the big things in this next segment is about tax structure. Relief at the top, pressure at the bottom. Trump era tax policies were built around lowering corporate tax rates and offering benefits to high income earners. That's great if you're already winning. But black owned business, which tend to be smaller and reinvest every dollar, don't see the same upside.
Those two tax cuts only help if your business is already generating strong profits. Most black entrepreneurs are still building, still scaling, still fighting for margin. So the tax structure ends up widening the wealth gap instead of closing it.
And that matters during Black Business Month in particular, because celebration without acknowledging structural barriers is just performance.
Deregulation, opportunity for some, risk for many. Deregulation is one of those policies that sounds good on paper: less red tape, lower compliance costs, more freedom. But nationwide, deregulation also means less consumer protection, more predatory lending, environmental callbacks that disproportionately affect black communities, fewer guardrails for small businesses.
Yep, that's right. Deregulation. You hear that a lot. Every time there's a Republican in office, you hear that. That's a calling card. Just the two things that they say: deregulation and tax cuts. That's their calling card. Deregulation helps the business already equipped to navigate risk. Black entrepreneurs often face the risk directly without the cushion at all. And the next section, federal contracting, we talked about
Let's
a
take
little
a
bit
quick
already.
break there
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talk about that a little bit.
yeah,
So, Mark, I'll put it to you first. What are your thoughts on the tax stuff?
yeah.
Again, it's for the wealthy.
Yeah.
And for the ones that's already, doing well, the businesses that have been successful. So it's pretty tough. When I think about, Walmart and Target and how the opportunities they were given to some of the small black businesses, but when our president got elected and talked about the DEI, all of a sudden now these black companies, minority owned small companies, didn't have all of the opportunities that they did before. And so therefore, you have a president that want to benefit, the rich, but not the poor.
Exactly.
In a lot of cases, not even the poor, just the middle class.
Yeah, even
You
the
know,
middle class, yeah. But the middle class
I've
is
said on
struggling too.
here, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I've said on here multiple times is that all the companies, to go back to diversity, equity, and inclusion, all the companies that dropped it, they can't point to $1 that they lost because they had diversity, equity, and inclusion part of
exactly.
the company. $1. They didn't lose $1. In fact, you picked up business because people like myself are willing to go and patronize a place who's willing to have fairness in their hiring practices. But all those companies bail because this president and this administration threatened them. So it's we should keep that in mind when we spend our dollars.
Hey,
Where these companies that turn their backs on us, we should always keep that in mind. But to go back to the topic, with the tax breaks, we know from the last 40 years, Reagan tried it in the 80s. We know it doesn't work. This trickle down in economics lie that the Republicans have been telling for, 40 something years doesn't work. What do corporations do when they get tax breaks? They don't hire people. They don't give their employees raises. They give their stakeholders bonuses, right? They go and move their companies from Detroit or, somewhere in the Northeast down to places that have less taxes and have less regulations on work conditions, which unfortunately in this time is the South. They all have low taxes and all that, so businesses want to move down there. And what I say to that is, sure, they have low taxes because at the end of the year they come begging to the Northeast and the Midwestern states to make up for them tax dollars from the federal government. So they give less taxes to the government, and then they ask for taxes from the more particularly blue states when they come up short. Texas is a good example. Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, these are welfare states. They cut their taxes down there so they can get all these businesses to move down there. And then they come begging with their hand out and their hat in their hand at the end of the year, asking the federal government to make up all the money that they didn't get from the taxes that they cut. And now Trump is just doing the exact same thing at the federal level.
Yep,
So,
you got it.
what do you
Yeah.
got, Tony?
The last thing on that segment that I have to add to it is deregulation.
Yep.
You see what deregulation is getting us? We're getting salmonella in our food and everything because they're not closely regulated anymore. We're in the health industry. They want to tell you that your kids don't need to get shots anymore, certain shots anymore. I can't name the ones right offhand right now, but they want to tell you that your kids really don't need those shots anymore. So
Measles.
now we got measles, mumps, and all these other
How about
this.
leprosy? I'm like, leprosy. Okay,
Yeah,
how about the plague from the Europeans called and they want their leprosy back?
yeah.
Leprosy. Who's had leprosy in the last 200 years?
Exactly. And so, we're seeing these things happening in real time and I don't know. Sometimes I don't understand. Maybe I'm not getting out there enough, but it don't seem like the American people are putting up the red flags and stuff. I remember at the end of Joe Biden's presidency, all I could hear is egg prices are high, egg prices are high. I was like, man, these people really mad about this. And I was mad about it too, but I don't hear that. I don't hear that too much now. I don't hear
You're
people
not going to hear it
shouting from the
because,
mountaintop anymore, you know?
well, you're not going to hear that because the national media is controlled by conservatives.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, you got Fox News, who's the carnival barker is out there all the time.
Yeah.
CBS has Republican tilt to it now.
Yeah.
NBC tries to be the liberal point, but even NBC has some Republican tilt to as well. So you don't have any other national media out there that's willing to tell the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
and and that's the problem. They're not going to talk about leprosy and measles. They're not going to talk about kids that are getting sick. I mean, come on, you have the Kennedy. I didn't even remember what his position is in the administration, but this is a guy that runs around talking about he used to have worms in his brain. But
Yeah.
he's the vaccinations are being given to our children. He's determining our food. I mean, it's
He,
just it's just insane.
he's the
So
Secretary of Human Health and
there you go.
whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
but he also
That's a
controls the CDC falls underneath that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So, he's the one who's, not having these kids take vaccinations. He's the one that's changing the food. I mean, come on, this guy's a nutcase. His own family doesn't even like him. He's a Kennedy.
You got that right. His whole family, they totally denounced him when he ran for office and lost for sure. So yeah, there's a whole host of things to show that these things don't normally work for the underserved black businesses and stuff because of some of the things that we have in place. The most of all is capital, access to capital. So, anything else we want to add to that before we go on to the next one? We already hit on the next one, but we'll hit up on it a little bit
I think
more.
the one to add, it really comes down to the people and who we elect into office, because that makes a big difference, especially at the local level, that can make changes in the states. And so, because the Democrats are not in charge of the House and Senate, you get confirmations like the Kennedy, you know. So it
You
kind
can
of starts with the people electing the right people into office that's going to help make the changes. Because
you can
anything the Democrats try to do, they're going to get outvoted.
exactly.
So
You go.
we as people got to realize when we elect somebody, what do they truly stand for and what are they going to do for our community?
There's one true statement that you can bank on almost every time is elections have consequences. And we're seeing it every day now. So we need to get out there and vote. You're exactly right. People tend not to they tend to overlook local elections and want to wait till the presidential election comes up and then they want to come out and vote. But your local elections have an effect on you on your day-to-day life, and as soon as people understand that. And the other thing is voting is sort of like a drug, and local elections and state election is like a introduction to the bigger election. Once you get started on that little stuff and you see the change, you'll feel it, and then you'll want to vote for the big elections and stuff. That's just my opinion and stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So yeah. So federal contracting, the shift. Sometimes it seems like it's overnight. The national lifeline that can shift overnight, according to the presidential administration, is whether black companies, black businesses will get a light shine on them. And those administration will make certain that these companies get some kind of look-see on getting contract. Federal contract is one of the biggest engines for minority-owned businesses nationwide. Construction, tech, logistics, professional service. But shifts in federal priorities can change everything. Diversity contracting can increase or decrease, as we've seen with this administration. Procurement rules can favor large firms. SBA 8A oversight changes can affect minority access.
Federal contracting shifts. Black businesses feel it first because for many, federal dollars are the only dollars available. And to get onto that, let me give one example. You guys have probably heard about it. It was a business down in Florida that for the last probably, I want to say 20 years, 25 years, something like that. This business was the uniform repair shop for the Blue Angel. Black owned business, black owned woman. I want to say it was about 30 years. And she had the contract. And there were no complaints from the Blue Angels, no complaints from the Navy, but this administration and, their anti-black slant, Hegseth, took that contract, canceled her contract. Her contract was like 400 something thousand dollars a year. Took that contract and then awarded it to a friend of the administration's up here in Virginia. And from the contract that she had down in Florida, which was 400 something thousand dollars, now up here in Virginia, they're paying this company who has no experience in doing this over $1 million a year. That's the direct impact you have with black companies. They never told her that she needed to rebid. They never told her that. Never told her she had to rebid, never told her that she did bad, never explained to her why they took the contract from her. But they gave it to a friend of the administration up here in Virginia. Now, why would you do that? Are Blue Angels in Virginia? I don't know. I've been out of the Navy for a long time, but I don't think they're in Virginia.
No.
Why would you do that? So what, we're shipping uniforms up to Virginia now to be repaired as opposed to doing it where the Blue Angels actually are? It makes no sense. But this is this administration and what they are doing to eliminate giving people a fair opportunity.
Yeah, as you know, by working in federal government, Mark, I'm quite sure as a commander, you've seen where you have this little thing that says no bid contract. It gives the decision maker the opportunity to say why this is a no bid contract. Can you speak on that a little bit, Mark?
Well, I think it like Sulayman was saying there, it gives an opportunity for minority-owned, women-owned, disabled opportunities to get the contract. Because if you don't allow them the avenue to get the contract, you're gonna always have the bigger businesses come in and get them. And so, with this administration has caused a lot of issues for the minority-owned companies. And so, like you were mentioning, the Blue Angels are in Pensacola. I live there. So why in the world is the business up north when you had a business down in the south? And I'm sure that opened up a lot of jobs for some of the people in the community. So now when you moved it up north, you took a lot of jobs away from some of the people in the south.
Exactly.
And probably
Yep.
So,
No
and you
doubt.
took and you cost the taxpayers $600,000 more a year to do the exact same thing.
exactly. All because it's benefiting someone else.
A
Yep.
friend.
So cool. All right.
Yeah. So access to capital has always been a core barrier, as we spoke about. The SBA has been one of those places that black entrepreneurs could go to, but nationwide, black entrepreneurs cite the same number one challenge: access to capital. Under Trump's economic direction, the SBA loan approval tightened in some categories. Banks increased risk aversion toward minority borrowers. CDFI support fluctuated. Venture capital remained overwhelmingly non-black.
And this is standard practice. This hasn't changed since the 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is the same thing that they've always done. Not give black people loans to buy homes in neighborhoods, redlining neighborhoods where they don't sell to black people. SBA loans is still a loan. It's just a low interest loan. We do that all the time in the job that I'm in. When you have natural disasters that do damage to people's homes, SBA comes in and gives loans at low interest. You still got to pay it back. You're just not paying it back at a high interest rate. It's just a break to give people opportunity to get back onto their feet. We know how banks are. Banks have been doing the same thing that they're doing now for 100 years, determining who they want to give loans to, where they got a fluctuating standard for who they give loans to. That's typically based upon color and location. They've been doing that for a very long time. Capital is important. If people have money, then you can do things. You can buy additional things. You can buy better neighborhoods. You can fix your home up. It's not rocket science. It's pretty basic stuff that this country and the rules and regulations they put in place are geared towards a certain population. So you can't. I'm sorry, Mark. Did you want to throw something in there?
One thing I would just like to add is that, SBA, at least in the past, used to be in place for a reason to help these companies. But now, because of Trump's regulation, it does nothing for them now. It doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, what little they could do in the past is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And what I always say is, black folks need to realize that you pay taxes. The SBA is not an organization without your taxes. These federal agencies get their money from you, from taxpayers. And to have that agency not give you a reasonable or fair opportunity to have access to the tax dollars that you pay into it is a travesty, and one that we need to stand up and fight this administration and over, because it makes no sense. Why shouldn't I have access to the money that I give the federal government? Why should I not determine where my dollars go? And just to get off topic for a second, there's the Senate candidate up in Michigan is running based upon, why are we sending our tax dollars to Israel? I'm not Israeli. Why am I sending my tax dollars to Israel? So that they can go and bomb kids and bomb unarmed men and women. We should make the determination on where our tax dollars go, regardless of your political affiliation. I'd rather my tax dollars stayed right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia as opposed to be given to a foreign country to go out and do whatever it is that they want to do. We should have a choice to determine where that goes. So I'll let it go with that. You can't celebrate Black Business Month without talking about money and who gets it.
Yeah.
So segment 3, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah. Inflation and cost of living are silent business killers. Inflation hits everyone, but not equal. Black-owned businesses nationwide operate with thinner margins and less cash cushion. So rising prices mean higher supply costs, higher borrowing costs, lower consumer spending, more pressure on already tight budgets. When somebody say margins, a lot of times people don't understand margins, but just take a cheeseburger. A cheeseburger might cost $1. What you do is you take how much it costs to buy that cheeseburger, the things that make those cheeseburgers. You take that cost, you take the cost of in a bigger way, you take the cost of manpower, how many people it take to work to not only make these cheeseburgers, but to sell them and write them up. And when you see your margin is only $2 here, $1 here, you can't afford to make mistakes because your profit margin is not there. Something like a sweatshirt that will cost you $40 on the average probably don't cost nothing about $10 or $15. The profit margin is a whole lot higher. But like Sulayman said, in restaurant businesses, a lot of times our restaurant businesses, Black people, restaurant business, go under because we tend to go towards a buffet style. Because we want everybody to have their greens, we want everybody to have their beans and everything. But when you're a buffet style, you lose a lot of money because you got that person that's going to come in there and stay from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock and eat 1 to 4. And your profit margin goes down. So when you open a restaurant like that, African Americans, Black people need to be smart about it and everything. That's what the margins mean when they talk about margins and stuff. Go ahead.
You have anything, Mark?
No, I just I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Tony, agree with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony, segment 4, brother.
Segment 4? Okay. I got lost there. Building earlier. Go ahead, Sue.
The truth is simple. Black businesses don't just need applause. We need infrastructure. And just to touch on that, collective buying. And what that means is, I'm a big fan. You guys have heard me talk on here about, Nation Islam. Nation Islam has a kind of what's it called? Like a Dulles type of, Dulles Town Center type of thing up in Chicago. And basically it's all businesses, Black owned businesses, all type of stuff that people can buy, food, clothing, knickknacks, all of that is in one area. So you can go there and you can buy whatever it is that you're looking to buy. One, be safe. You ain't got to worry about Karen coming out there and getting in your face. You have to worry about law enforcement bothering you because you're walking around. That's what I mean by collective bargaining. Spend money in our communities because that community that they're spending money in is more than likely going to support the local team, more than likely going to support the local school. They're going to put money back into our community where our dollars are circulating within our own community. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to Walmart or Target or one of those places on the other side of town. But what I'm saying is if you can spend money in your own community, it helps your own community. Cooperative economics. Go to places where people treat you with respect. If they're not going to treat you with respect, don't spend your dollars there. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to yell and argue with them. You just walk away with your dollars and go spend them somewhere else. So that's a very good segment there. I like that. We need to come together as a community and start thinking about how to build on top of our successes.
For sure. Let me do this. Let me close off this section. Trump's economy, like any administration, creates winners and losers. But Black Business Month forces us to look at the impact through our lenses, our experience, our reality, and nationwide. The story is clear. Black entrepreneurs are brilliant, resilient, determined, but they're navigating the economic landscape not built with them in mind.
This month, don't just celebrate Black businesses, invest in them, advocate for them, build with them.
This has been Gents Making Sense on this topic. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about another note here real soon. Okay, so before we get into another note, let's get some stuff out the way here. Let's talk about Gents Making Sense, YouTube at Gents Making Sense. Please subscribe, like our videos. We're going to put it out there as best as we know how. And it's about our lived experience, how we see it. You may not agree. And if you can hold a civil conversation, please let us know. And we'll get back with you and everything. We're also on Spoutable. I got to find it first.
At
Spoutable.
Gents.
There you go. There you go. So just read our contents, look at our contents, view it every week. On another note, I'm excited about this. I got a few things, but this is second to none by what's going on out in the Iran war and everything. We got two Navy veterans that are here that can speak firsthand on what it's like being out at sea, as long as these ladies and gentlemen have been out at sea and everything. So can y'all elaborate? And you can start anywhere you want to.
Hey, Mark, you go first.
Well, I can definitely speak to being on a ship, and I can speak from it from the enlisted side as well as being on a ship as an officer. And the longest that I've been out to sea has been 6 months on a deployment. And within that deployment, we had made stops, port calls. So we never had any issue like that. What I am having a hard time understanding is you have supply ships. Why was this ship not being supplied with one of our supply ships? Because we have them out there, or you can contract. So I don't understand how something like this can happen, and then they try to cover it up, but you can't cover it up.
Yeah.
And it's sad because you don't understand, why isn't there a better rotation of ships out there? Why did one ship have to spend a year away from their home port? And then with that, they didn't really have any port calls. That is just terrible. It should have never, ever happened.
You're exactly right.
Second and third, what Mark said. I mean, I can tell you from experience, when I was in the Navy during the first Persian Gulf War, my ship was out there for 9.5 months. That's an extremely long time. But you're right. There's no reason for the USS Lincoln to be out there for a year. The United States has 22, 23 aircraft carriers. I don't understand why there's not a rotation. I understand probably the reason is because we have incompetent civilian leadership over our military who don't know how to run a war campaign. We supply ships at sea, meaning that our ships move in the ocean, and we have supply ships pull up next to us, and they supply us with whatever is needed. That's done multiple times during a cruise. When I was out there, we had 3 ships. We had one in the Red Sea, 2 in the Red Sea, and then the other one's outside of the Red Sea. When you come out of the war zone, you get resupplied. We have multiple places that we can stop over there. Mark Potters, remember, if you're an East Coast sailor, you know what Palma, Spain is. Okay, you go into Palma, Spain because that's the refill spot. Everybody knows that's where we get resupplied. You get supplies when you leave Norfolk, and you get supply ships that meet you out from Carolinas that come out there and give you supplies. Helicopters from some of our small boy ships can carry supplies as well. So it makes no sense. It's just incompetence, from this administration. Now, I will say this, and I've said this before, is I don't get these sailors out here complaining. I mean, you joined the military, man. What did you think you were joining? War's not easy. There are going to be some things that you have to deal with when you're on a ship if you can't get supplies out there. But to be crying back to your parents and having your parents run up to and complain on TV about the conditions, come on, suck it up, man. Some of our sailors in World War II, they did not have the commodities and stuff that you have out here today. You can make your concerns known, but you are at war and you need to do what's necessary. So stop complaining. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I think it's partly incompetence, and not just incompetence from the civilian thing. I mean, Head Sev and this administration has pushed out very competent military
There you
officers
go. There you go.
for the last 2 years, not promoted people that should be in leadership positions in the military. You have yes men that are sitting in decision making positions in uniform, which is why, we are getting embarrassed by a country of 90 million people, who are beating us with $30,000, $40,000 drones, and we're building multi-million dollar planes, ships, and missiles. And for the most part, we're losing this war.
Yeah, and I'll just my little 2 cents as an Air Force member. I feel sorry for y'all out there in those ships, but anyway, the two things you just mentioned about the drones and everything. Uh, I think it was Colin Powell that says when his doctrine was if you decide to go to war, you need to go to war with overwhelming power. You need to be able to do that and obtain your objectives in the early part of the war. Not to go in there and let's just hit them here, let's just hit them there. But that comes from you get rid of your most experienced leaders, military leaders. Then you got this joker that calls himself the Secretary of War. I refuse to say that. To me, he's still the SecDef, Secretary of Defense. He's a joker. And he went on stage today and yesterday and did a whole comedy show in Iowa, talking about how they look at, we got a war fighting machine and everything. And it just gets on my nerves. I just want to throw up when I see him talking and stuff. My 2 cents is, yeah, experienced leadership on the military side and military non-yes men would have told them the proper way to resupply, how to resupply, how long those sailors can go. Because they're just sitting there thinking about how long you can stay out there. You get weary out there sometimes. I understand you join the military. I get you, Sulayman, on that. You're going to have some hard times. But the one thing that you can't overcome is when you're on a high tempo. The Air Force always talk about ops tempo. If your ops tempo is too high, you're gonna find out sooner or later you're gonna have some of those $18 to $22 million planes falling out the sky because the ops tempo is too high. So that's all I gotta add to that.
Percent. I mean, a year is too long, and there's no reason for that.
Exactly.
We have multiple aircraft carriers on the West Coast and the East Coast. We can send West Coast sailors. It'll take them a little bit longer to get there because they're on the West Coast, but they can get there as well. So you can send different ships out there. There's no reason why the Navy, we have over 500 ships. There's absolutely no reason why that ship needs to be out there for that long. We have the George Washington. I don't know, maybe the George Washington is in the shipyard. I don't know. But the Lincoln being out there a year, most people don't realize that when naval ships, particularly carriers, come back, they don't just go back to where they came from. They go to the shipyard for a year or two.
Yep.
They don't just come back and go back
that.
to the
Yep.
because they got to be redone, fixed, all that stuff. They
Yep.
need to tune up. That
Yep.
takes a long time. So that ship, when it gets back to Lincoln, most of those sailors that are on it now, they'll be in another command by the time the Lincoln comes out of the shipyard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to have it out there a year. You send out another battle group, and when they're crossing each other in the night as they're going back to the States and the other one's going to the war zone. That's how we've done it for years. The Navy has done that for years. I did 2 cruises. I did a 9.5 one during the Persian Gulf War, and then I did a 6-month one about a year and a half, 2 years later. So I did 2 cruises in my 4-year term in Norfolk. Those sailors should not be out there for a year. And it comes back to incompetence. It comes back to having an administration that thinks power is sticking your chest out and launching missiles. That's what they think being tough is about. And so, yeah, I agree with you guys.
If I can add one more thing, and
Of course,
you talk about the military leadership side of the house, I'm really displeased that you have senior military leadership that could have stepped up and said some things. You can't be afraid to speak and tell the truth and protect. Your job is to also protect, the
Say,
sailors and that are out there. That's your job to protect them. And so there should have been some conversations.
Yeah. Some long conversations at that. And for the commander in chief to say they haven't been out there long enough,
Yeah, that's
it's stupid.
that's inexperienced and don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. And I'm so glad that you were here today, Mark and Suleiman, of course, to talk about this firsthand. And this is the kind of conversation we need to have. Nobody would have known that, okay, these sailors ain't supposed to be out here this long. Nobody would have known that these ships got to go back and be serviced. Nobody would have known that these other ships can come in here and replace them, a whole flotilla, I guess that's what y'all call them. And the thing is the other backdraw is we're not getting news out of the Pentagon because they've cut back on the press in the Pentagon. We don't know what the status of all those ships are right now. You used to get a status on all these ships, but you don't know now.
And we would have never known if those sailors on the ship didn't tell their parents, or their friends and relatives.
And wives, wives and husbands. Yeah. And if I could add one quick thing, that in addition to being out there for a year, one of the things that would have helped, besides not having the food, but having port calls, meaning that you have opportunities to go to shore and be able to release some stress.
Yeah.
And so there would have been some opportunities. They didn't have none of that either. So on top of the issue with supplies, they didn't even stop anywhere to have some, just get off the ship and just unwind. They didn't have any of that. So you have people out there stuck for a year, and you got to deal with seeing the same people for a year. You don't have all the supplies you need. You're not stopping somewhere. Sooner or later, it's going to break people down.
One question I got to ask you.
Right, the Navy has what's called a steel beach party on aircraft carriers, which basically means that it's a third of the ship is working, but the other 2/3 are throwing a party on the top of the ship. Now, there's no beer and alcohol and stuff like that, but it gives them a full day to kind of hang out on the aircraft carrier on the top, talk to each other, have fun. That's called a steel beach party. We did that when we were out there as well. And then also, I want to, people that don't know, aircraft carriers typically have a 12-hour work period, unlike small boys, destroyers, and frigates and ships. Like, they work 12 hours. You work 12 hours. So it means you get up, you go to work at 7 a.m., you work till 7 p.m. Another ship comes in and works from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So essentially, you have sailors that have been working 12-hour shifts for an entire year. And if they're not hitting ports, they're not getting a break.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's where a lot of the complaints are coming from. I would ask anybody who has complaints about those sailors out there, can you work 12 hours a day on a ship where you and not have any concerns? So they got valid things. Because I know when I did the 6-month tour, we worked 12 hours. But when I got back to Norfolk, when we got back to the beach, I was tired.
Yeah.
I needed to take a few days off in order to re-energize myself.
Take a whole lot of days off. I mean, even the Air Force with our cush jobs, when you go on a short tour to Korea or Turkey or somewhere like that, those were mandatory 12-hour days. That was our work day on those short tours, because
and I got a whole lot of respect for the yellow shirts and the brown shirts and the green shirts and the red shirts on the deck. Those guys, think about the sorties. Think about the flights of those planes that were bombing Iran. That means those dudes are working. They're not like me working, in the office. Them dudes were working up on the deck. It's hot, mentally tired because you got to keep your head on the swivel or you're going to mess around and be part of that plane when it's taking off or landing. That's difficult. The stress that comes with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
Thank y'all. I appreciate that, man. We couldn't get a better segment today on that. On another note, do y'all want to talk about anything that happened yesterday as far as the elections and everything? I got one thing I want to say on it, but do anybody else have anything to add?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, I want to say this young lady, Angie Nixon in Florida, that beat the Army guy, Vindman. She showed you that money, you don't really have to have money. It's good when you got money, to win. You got to have a good candidate and a good message. Good candidate and good message beat out money any day. This man has $16 million. She spent $947,000. He spent $16 million. And she won by over 20 some percentage point because of her message. Now, everybody want to box her up in a corner and call her a democratic socialist. She called herself that. I don't know why they decided to call themselves socialists and everything. And then they say, well, we're not going to talk about label. But what she's talking about that everyday Americans can relate to is affordability, gas prices, housing, healthcare. That's why she resonated with these people. Not the fact that she agreed with a lot of stuff that you say, Sulayman, especially with Israel. Why are we giving money to Israel and their leader is committing war crimes? Why are we giving him a whole bunch of money to commit war crimes? And they want, well, so you don't want to support Israel? She said, no, see, everybody gonna put stuff in my mouth. As long as they got this leader in charge, I think that we need to look at how much money we're giving them and when we're giving them money so that we can control what's going on with our hard-earned tax dollars. She said the money that we could be spending back here housing people and everything. So I think she was an excellent candidate, and she showed what can be done if you work hard and you got a good message. So I enjoyed that race. I looked at that last night, all night. And then when she came up and spoke, she spoke intelligently, knowledgeably, and she didn't let them paint her in a corner. So I'm excited about her chances. Everybody has pretty much written her off. No way she can win the Senate. I'm not so sure. It's going to be hard, but I'm not so sure. Go ahead. Anybody got anything to say?
If she stay on speech about what the people
Message.
need right now, that's where the Democrats need to stay on. Stop down about him. Talk about what the people need. How are you going to get that to them and when? People are hurting right now.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to focus on. And that's why she won.
That's exactly why she won. Yep.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I mean, the brother up in Michigan did the exact same thing. Mandani in New York City is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They are giving the people of their cities and their states what they're asking for. And, and the Democrats need to uncuff themselves from this money. I mean, the Democrats should not be accepting money from the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL is a foreign entity. They want what's best for Israel. This is not Israel. This is the United States, and we need to cut ourselves from that. If they want to support democratic principles and democratic policies, no issues with that. They can be just like every other corporation in the United States that invest in whatever it is that they're looking for. But for Democrats to be so attached to this foreign entity is amazing to me. And I'm not just being critical of them. We shouldn't give Israel money every year, and we shouldn't give Egypt money. Egypt gets money from the United States as well. We essentially bought off Israel and Egypt years ago so that they wouldn't kill each other. But we shouldn't give Egypt money. And we shouldn't give Israel money. And a lot of our allies, we shouldn't be funding them for everything.
Yeah.
Our tax dollars need to be spent in the United States.
Exactly.
Why do I care about what's going on in a foreign country when I can go to cities here in the United States and see people sleeping on the streets, people not having food, people out on drugs? Why is that the case? Why should a foreign country get my tax dollars when Americans are suffering?
Exactly. So, she stay on task. Like you said, Mark, I am intrigued by her. I'm intrigued by how well she stays on message, especially the day after having a hard-fought primary and everything. So I want to see, can she stay on that task? If so, she could be the blueprint for those people and everything. She really could. Anything else on another note? Anybody got? Mark, we need you to come back, man. I need you to take this co-host spot.
I'll be more than happy to.
We need you to take this co-host spot so I can get off air. That's what we need to do. I like the behind the scenes stuff, but me and Suleiman have promised each other that we're gonna hold it down till the wheels fall off. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
I'm
sir.
up here.
No doubt.
Oh,
All right,
yep.
brothers.
Close it
Yeah.
out for us, Suleiman.
All right, everybody. Look, make sure you visit YouTube, man. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have legitimate comments, we have no problem with engaging with you. But if you come here with, your disingenuous comments and, my opinion, anti-Black comments, we're just going to delete your comments and move on. But we're willing to have conversations with anybody. And then finally, I want to say this, and I say it in the comments all the time. People need to recognize that this podcast is for Black people. This is a foundational Black American podcast. So if you don't like our comments and what we talk about, you're welcome not to click on our faces and go somewhere else. Go listen to Joe Rogan or one of those clowns.
Yeah. And I want to add to that. It's our lived experience. We can only talk about what we lived. And we want to have guests like Mark and make Mark a fixture here because he has a lot to add to this stuff. And today was just a perfect example of what he can add to this. So, gents, keep your heads up, act like your ancestors invested in you, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Deuces, everybody.
All right.